job. One of the things that's interesting is that Marcus Ambrose, well, I was about to say, is disappearing down the order. We've just found out why.
Oh, look.
He's parked up against the side of the fence there in the final corner. Is that as a result of damage or some reliability issue?
So no, we're just watching his position just trickle down the order. Might be able to hear a radio message if we're lucky.
Remember, he was in the midst of that battle that involved Glenn Seaton, Mark Scaife himself. I think Tander was behind. So perhaps something has happened in that little group there. Try and source the answers for you. See the ventilation that he's got to the helmet?
He's not getting out, it's not safe, he's telling the marshal.
I don't blame him.
But he is stranded there. What a huge disappointment for Ambrose. This race.
If they can get him, if they can just get him back to the pits and get him running again, reverse grid, he could be in the pound seats for the next race, couldn't he?
Just had a word to Jim Stone down here at Stone Brothers Racing. Some understandably disappointed faces after Marcus's great qualifying effort. The gearbox has unfortunately broken. It looks like it's the end of race 1 of 3 here at Canberra for Marcus Ambrose.
Well, that's unusual. Funny place for it to have ended up. One of the issues with this track, and it's a typical street circuit issue, it's not just a Canberra thing, but street circuits are punishingly hard on anything to do with driveline, gearbox, clutch, axles.
A lot of low speed, high torque application. Yeah,
I've made the comment before about the amount of times they're using first gear, which is very unusual. And that's right. So you're delivering all that horsepower in short, sharp stabs. And any time where the wheels are jumping on and off the ground over these curves, like you see here, you know, just imagine life for a moment as an axle.
There's Jim Stone.
Safety car is on the circuit. They've got safety car boards out here to try and rescue Marcus Ambrose's car. This is going to bunch the field up, but this is what we were saying coming into this round. This race is just so important to your championship hopes. And this is wretched luck for Marcus Ambrose. Broken transmission. Broken transmission after such a brilliant start to the weekend.
As you say, it's probably broken a tooth.
Now, someone watching at home may be thinking, well, this is great. If this puts him to the back of the field here, it's going to give him a good starting position in the reverse grid race. But that's the tragedy for these guys, isn't it, Neil? If there was just some way they could get that car fixed and get him back on to be declared a finisher, it wouldn't be so bad. But now he has to start from the back of the grid regardless, and he's got no points from race 1. The worst way you could possibly start your weekend at Canberra.
I was about to understand the gearbox went. What happened?
Don't really know. Just put it into 5th gear there at the end of the back straight, and obviously a gear's broken, and I just lost all the cogs. I tried to get out of the way, but it happened on the slowest corner of the track, and all the cars going past. So yeah, we caused the safety car, but a bit of a shame for the project guys, you know, because we had a good car here today.
Highs and lows, mate. Darwin a couple of weeks ago, and then this. Did it give you any indication that it was going to blow?
No, nothing at all. Like, I worked the gearbox pretty hard, so obviously, yeah, around here it's a little bit too hard. So yeah, we'll put another one in tonight, and I'm sure it won't happen again. Hard luck, mate. Thank you.
Look like Todd Kelly trying to sneak up the inside under brakes there. There's been drama.
Oh, yes.
And it was on Stephen Ellery's car.
Both Kmart cars involved.
Yeah, you can see Todd just ducking to the inside, trying to move under brakes, and it hasn't come off. He's caught 3 of them, including his teammate, Stephen Ellery, and Kelly still stranded there. So they managed to get back into the fight, but they've lost a lot of track position.
We've seen it before. Craig is so good at getting past, isn't he? I mean, if there's half a chance anywhere, he'll be able to do it. Where was it? Adelaide. He made some amazing.
There's a car in trouble back there. Cameron McLean, was it?
Yeah, I think it might have been. Looked like it had some a wheel hanging out somewhere.
So there might be another safety car before this race is over. They can't move that Greenfield Mowers car out of the way. Look at this battle, though. It's really heating up now. Time running out for Craig Lowndes. He knows that. Dougal McDougall, he's in trouble as well.
Lowndes had tremendous speed coming off the final corner that time, and it's put him right in touch with the back of Stephen Johnson.
Lowndes all over the back of the Shell Ford. Maximum pressure driving here for Junior. Currently 6th in the championship, fighting hard for good points. Let's have a look at the Shell Helix replay. Looking out of Murphy's car. See Radicic sneak through. Oh, didn't quite see the beginning of that incident. Certainly caught the 3 of them up.
Oh dear.
So maybe if we have a look at that from another angle, it might tell the story a little bit clearer.
Dougal,
this was
Dougal McDougall.
the other incident. Yep, Dougal McDougall in trouble. managed to wrest it up against the fence there, but I think he got back into the action as well.
Almost set to resume racing here. Race 1 of 3 in the GMC 400 for 2001. In terms of track position, Mark Skate set to take a big chunk out of teammate Jason Bright's championship lead. We're underway again, and look at Lowndes move.
I was going to say, with Stevens slowed right up there to
look at Skate.
Skate
Trying to muscle on the outside of Craig Lowndes. He tried to do the same thing to Stephen Johnson. There's contact between the two as the field sort themselves out coming out of turn 1. Boy, oh boy, what a restart.
Yeah, that had potential for disaster there because the control line is right back at the exit of the final corner, and the pace car peeled off. Lowndes was awake up to it and made an immediate attack, and then Skate went with him, but they put Mark on the wrong side as they got down to turn 1, and I thought there was a written invitation for Glenn Seaton to get up there, but there was certainly a bit of biff and barge as they all knuckled their way through the first corner.
Skate managed to find his way past Glenn Seaton, puts him up in 3rd, Seaton in 4th. And look at Garth Tander sitting there in 5th as he has a go under brakes. Seaton, is he going to relinquish? Yes, indeed. So Garth Tander really is charging here. Stephen Ellery now wants to have another attack at Seaton. He's almost gone to the outside of the FTR Falcon through State Circle. We've got the Kmart Commodore sneaking up the inside as well. It's a 3-way battle. Hard under
what's
brakes.
going on up the front there?
Someone's had a huge lock up down the bottom of State Circle. Remember that some of the tyres, some of them, but all of them will have lost some temperature and some pressure in that period, so you can't expect your car to pull up from the point where it did when the tyres were hot several laps earlier.
And Seaton lost a couple of positions there. Proved costly around this place. Very, very hard to overtake. It seems the only time you can pounce, Neil, is at that critical opening lap when maybe tyre temperatures and grid levels are slightly different.
And that's why there's so much desperation in those restart periods. And that's been very costly for Glenn Seaton because he's lost, what, 3 spots there? Really got his ears boxed down the back. It must have been down around turns 8 and 9 down near Holden Corner. On board with Lowndes. This is the run down to turn 1. Look how tight it is and how slow across the right-hander.
Stephen Johnson was awake to that attack from Lowndes. He had just enough speed, positioned the car beautifully on the inside for the turn 1. Managed to block out the Gibson Motorsport car, but Lowndes is all over the shell forward as they wind their way through, up through the GMC flip-flop once again. Well, they plunge down toward Holden Corner.
Craig's giving those tyres a little bit of a nudge on the way through in place. You have to be careful. He won't be aware of that damage that's been done at the front of his car. So they have to hope that there's nothing hanging precariously, or it could really come unstuck for him.
So the field settling down a little bit now after that frantic restart. They spent a lot of time behind the safety car. Let's have a look at this incident between, and look at Scaife right up the outside of Seaton. So he got him under brakes coming into turn 1, but look at this collision between Lowndes and the Holden Racing Team car. May not see it from this angle, but there was a bit of contact there. Another Shell Helix replay. This is from Radisic's car, a bit further back in the pack.
Oh, dear me.
You can see the dent in the fuel tank there. He's giving it a real hit.
It was energised, all right.
But fortunately, it's like Murphy's managed to get away with that one. So thundering down Flint Place, hard under brakes for turn 13. Stephen Johnson, Craig Lowndes right up behind him. Mark Scaife in 3rd, Garth Tander in 4th.
Lowndes has got a little bit more pace than Johnson at the moment, and it's going to be interesting to see whether Stephen can withstand the pressure.
Well, Stephen Richards' team is standing by for a stop at the moment as well. We'll try and find out why, but a disappointed man is Marcus Ambrose.
Let's have a look at the Shell Helix replay.
And watch Mark Scaife at the back of the pack there. We'll see what happens here. Apparently there's a bit of squeezing going on. One of the Kmart cars rubs the wall. And look at Scaife getting stuck into the back of Glenn Seaton as they go down towards turn 1. It's biff and barge everywhere. They're virtually stopped.
Look at the amount of elbowing and hitting going on there. Look at
flying. Somebody's gone off. It's Paul Romano. Understand that Greg Murphy's pretty irate and he's wandered back to his transporter. We probably saw a glimpse there of Greg Russ trying to get hold of him, but we'll catch up with Murphy a little bit later on and find out what happened. I think he was the car that got squeezed up on the left-hand side. Maybe Rob Crawford could shed some light for us.
Well, I'm down in the pits here at the moment. It's all stations happening here at Kmart Racing. Rob Crawford, who we're going to have a word with, has just had to duck off because it looks like Todd Kelly might be coming in.
Paul Morris.
Oh, Romano.
So that's why we saw Paul Romano off. He had the Ultra Tune car there.
Tuning him.
Giving him a tune-up.
So if you look back in the pack, I think Stephen Richards, he's back in 17th in the overall order now. He's the first of the cars that's made its compulsory stop. Stephen Richards back in 17th, so all the cars in front of him yet to stop. Look at this, getting hot and heavy here between Seaton and Brad Jones. Jones up the inside. No one wants to give way. Jones goes up on the curb. They're still side by side and very close to a collision with the concrete wall.
And that
Tander helped Tander.
I think that was Seaton that was getting the squeeze there, and that something came off the car.
Time Stephen Richards comes past. So watch that. McDougall. Now, is this going to be a safety car? If it is,
almost certainly.
This is going to be a major problem for.
Oh, look at this,
David Bernard. Another car caught up in some drama here. So if this is, and then Lowndes has got in before the safety car came out. So that was the critical thing. Everyone was waiting. If you're going to take a risk, it may have all come undone.
Well, can confirm that for you. The safety car board was not shown before Craig Lowndes entered pit lane. Had a word to Alan Heatley as well. They always planned to bring Craig in at a time when he had some good clear space out on the track to make some ground.
Now this is going to be the fascinating thing. If we watch the wide shot at the end of pit lane here, we might get a shot of where Stephen Richards is relative to Craig Lowndes.
No, he's gone through.
No,
Richards
he's already
just gone through.
Okay.
But Lowndes is certainly going to make a great big net gain on the other contenders. Remember that Stephen Richards started with enormous track position advantages because of starting on the front row relative to all the guys that did well yesterday.
Trying to see where he rejoined the track relative.
He's come in behind Larkham, so he's in 6th on the road at the moment. No, 5th.
Still Jason Richards and Marcus Ambrose to make their compulsory stops.
And if he's managed to squeeze that stop in before a potential safety car, then that will also give him another gain.
So he should be 3rd, I think, by our calculations. By the time those other two guys make their compulsory stops.
McDougall wallops the wall down at Holden Corner, turns 8 and 9, and it's a lot of damage to the front left. Momentary flame there. Obviously a line's come off somewhere, fuel or oil. And he may well have only just come out of the pit lane on cold tyres and either has copped a bump from somebody or has had some other problem. Meanwhile, look at this battle here. Lowndes, a huge lock-up. Straight ahead. He's lost track position there in a huge way.
And he's ended up with a tyre like a 50-cent piece.
Geez, had trouble at that part of the track. Forwards.
On board with Mark Scaife,
and
giving Rodney Forbes a wake-up call there. So, and another whack.
Wow.
So Forbes had to get on the brake because somebody else in front of him had a moment, and there was already damage to the front of the HRT Commodore after turn 1, so that will further complicate issues at the front of the car.
HRT didn't do well out of those stops. Mark Scaife's back in 11th, Jason Bright in 12th. So they certainly got caught up in a few of those incidents.
I just look at Ambrose, he's 11, so he was 13 seconds behind Richards.
And we hear on the radio that Mark Scaife's coming in. He's got a problem with the left front tyre. This might be him now.
Can you keep driving or not? No way.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, look at the damage.
Well, sending the information via rail there. The radio's not particularly strong around here with the number of overhead bridges and trees. He's coming to the pit lane, so costly damage to the front of Scaife's car. We saw it on the replay. He got into the back of Rodney Forbes' car, and Rodney propped for some other reason with somebody else in front of him.
And this is really going to...
First grid, but...
Yeah, thanks, Mark. We'll come back and have a chat to you later on.
Only trouble is, this is really going to hurt his starting position for the 50 lap of this afternoon. Keep in mind, it's based on an aggregate of your results from race 1 and race 2. He gets a lousy finishing position here. It's really going to hurt his starting position for the final.
He's going to be really lucky if he hasn't done the rad there.
Yeah,
look at the damage.
Serious amount of damage.
Into turn 13. Stephen Richards, look at Paul Morris having along the inside of Perkins. And he's turned Perkins around.
Oh, dear.
So Larry was one of the lap cars there. Got caught up in the big push. Now he's got to let the field go through. He's not having a good weekend, Larry.
Ooh. That won't make Larry too happy, I don't think.
Well, there were both lap cars, in fact.
Oh,
Larry
yeah.
and Paul
And then
Morris.
everybody sort of does a nose-to-tail job in turn 13 as a result of that.
Have a look at this from another angle. Just turn the back of the Castrol car around.
It doesn't take much of a tap. You can probably, I think there's barely a mark on the back bumper of Larry's car, but it was enough to turn him round.
Into the closing competitive laps. of race 2 at the GMC 400. What an eventful race. Let's take a look at why we are here in this situation, and they're trying to get some heat into those tyres. Brad Jones. This is the first of 2 incidents that took him out of the race. Little lose there, bit of damage. 2 other cars in trouble.
But it's curious that so many cars went off there, Bill, because there must have been something on the road. And then here's the one that finished Brad Jones off. Tangles with his old teammate from the Audi days, Cameron McConville, wallops the wall, and it brings the safety car out.
So that's where we are now, and a tricky spot there, of course. Absolute must to bring the safety car out in that situation. On the sweeper into the main straight, and plenty of debris there as well, hanging off the car. In fact, McConville did pretty well given the track.
Stopping the first race with the smoke. Oh, that's one of the who's
Belmont Cup.
Is that Bargwanna?
Looks like Bargwanna, and a lot of damage. The word is that he may have touched the wall. Here's the Shell Helix replay.
Oh dear, that's more than a touch. Well, that's a wallop.
Tried to engineer it back 3 metres.
They lost a wheel nut.
And nearly lost a wheel nut, and nearly tandem nearly hits him up the backside.
That's an expensive mistake from Jason Bargwanna. Now he's got to try and limp it around, get it back to the pits, but the damage beneath that bodywork could be quite severe.
The amount of leaves that have gathered already in the radiator intake at the front of the car, that's one of the issues here that causes the teams a lot of grief. They'll have to watch water temperature very carefully, but there'll be somebody at the front of the car for both compulsory stops that'll monitor that with all the vehicles.
Nerve-wracking moment for Gary Rogers Motorsport. Look at the damage on this car. It's crabbing its way along the track. It's been so badly hit as a result of that collision with the concrete.
That was a huge hit.
Massive hit, and you can see the damage there. Left front corner's just scraping along the ground.
You'd have to think that was pretty terminal, wouldn't you?
Stephen Richards with some damage to the rear bodywork of the FTR Falcon.
Lots of damage to the front of the car as well. These guys opting for tyres. So this is quite interesting. Some going for fuel, some going for tyres in these early stops.
Yeah, I guess the guys who have come in early for fuel may be banking on a bit of rain later in the day. There may be a situation where everyone has to come in and put wet tyres on. So a lot of different tactics to unfold here. Everyone watching the weather as well as everything else. There's Marcus Ambrose. Flashes past on the outside of the pit lane, so we wait for these positions to unfold. So Stephen Richards rejoins behind Marcus Ambrose, who's already come in for his tyre stop. Fastest man on the track at the moment is Paul Radicic. He did that on lap 6. A 1:45.67 as Bargwanna lifts into pit lane.
Oh, look at the back end there, everything.
There's going to be some serious damage to the front end of that car. And that the wheel nut came off. The wheel nut came off. I would suspect it was from the front wheel, but the wheel's still there.
Yeah, Bargwanna's just driving straight around in the back. He's not even going to bother stopping at his pit lane. As you can see, as you did pick it, Mark, the wheel has gone on the left side. It's nothing but a rim on there. The tyre's blown both sides. And the explanation for that one from Gary Rogers was the fact that he just crashed. That's about as simple as it gets. Having the change of fortune for this team, hey?
Very easy to do.
Replay again shows what happened. You see Jason in the background, a lot of steering lock on, bang into that wall.
Watch God, look. Which way that?
Yeah, and what they've done wisely is taken him out of the working lane because the new rule prevents you from having 2 cars in your pit area. So because there's a possibility.
That stop, Panda running back in 11th at the moment. Let's have another look at a
Bernard.
Shell Helix replay.
He's having a terrible season, isn't he?
They did a fantastic job to get that car out because it was very badly damaged. You can see they were working.
The compulsory fuel stop. Oh, John Faulkner trying to undo all that good smash repair teamwork. But no damage done, thankfully. Look at all that mud and garbage on the inside here. There's more to it. There's more to it, is there? Is it Russell Ingall?
Russell Ingall up the inside there. That was close.
Okay.
Oh, and he's still parked there at the moment.
Oh,
Safety car is standing by.
This is a nervous moment for Craig Lowndes.
The tyres, see where the tyres are.
Ah, yes.
Nervous moment for Craig Lowndes. We've just done our sums here. He's 50 seconds in front of Marcus Ambrose, who is the first of the 2 stoppers. Yeah. Now, if the safety car comes out,
which I think it might,
he's going to lose all
If it's out now, he's in terrible trouble. They've gambled. They've been brave, but they've gambled.
Safety car's out, I'm told. So this will be a disaster for the Gibson Motorsport team. They gambled hard. And maybe the roll of the dice hasn't gone their way.
This is what we were on about all the weekend, wasn't it? I mean, you can be so lucky and so unlucky, and Craig sees that, he's just say, oh dear. Oh dear,
The boys are actually standing by here in pit lane with tyres for Craig Lowndes. They've got one stop to do, as you know, and Oscar Fiorinotto and Alan Heafy and the boys have been calculating. They thought maybe we should bring Craig in around about 2 laps' time, but that has thrown that into chaos, hasn't it?
Well, they took the gamble. They really took the gamble, and hasn't paid off.
And you'd have to say that on balance, their gambles throughout the year have been pretty successful. So you're going to lose some. This is a costly one, though, because there's so many points on order. See, what's happened is that the net lead that he had, in reality, is now frittered away by the compaction of the field.
And not only has he lost that 50-second lead over the field, but he peels off to make his tyre stop. When does the pit window close? Lap 33.
The only thing that could protect him here now is if he had astonishing pace and a good clear run, and he was able to get another decent run on before another safety car came out much later on. But I don't think he could make that sort of a margin on the field.
He's made his fuel stop. He's got to come in for tyres, and he's really going to be pushing it.
Well, one thing's for sure, the stop will happen a lot later now. They've got no choice.
There's no way they can bring him in now.
As for John Faulkner, apparently he was hit up the back by Russell Ingall, which turned him around, and simply just can't start the car after he stalled it. The boys are trying to tell him to stay in there, and she'll fire up in a couple of minutes, but no word other than that.
So at the moment, if this works against Craig Lowndes, certainly Marcus Ambrose is looking pretty strong. He's up to 7th in the order now as a result of people coming in and making stops. He's made his 2 stops. Tander's going with him, so too Skate. So it's a pretty competitive pack hovering around it outside the back of the top 10. But Lowndes has really been stranded as a result of playing poker with the safety car. And has come out at just exactly the wrong time for the Gibson Motorsport team.
Well, Faulkner doesn't get any luck at all, does he?
No, amazing job by that Smash Repair team. You can't sing their praises too highly. 12 of these apprentices worked 24 hours non-stop through the night, freezing cold conditions, to get this car back on track. They really do deserve a pat on the back. Big cheer from the crowd. John Faulkner, something of a folk hero in V8 Supercars. He has struggled to find sponsorship of late, hanging on to his level 1 franchise by his fingertips. Thermo King have come on board this weekend to give him a hand. And it's amazing how he's been able to bounce back after such an enormous accident earlier in the weekend. Well, problems here for Craig Lowndes. It's all come to nothing for the Gibson Motorsport Ford. He was putting in some...
It wasn't, still racing.
Oh, the car's stranded there.
Just wonder what's going to... It's obviously...
We're just keeping quiet so you may be able to hear a radio message.
Yes, it's cranking over. I went to the brake area into turn 1 and all just stopped.
You can imagine the frustration for Craig Lowndes. Is probably going to bring out a safety car.
Very awkward spot right at the apex of turn 2, and the thing has just stopped. How weird. Alan Heafy, team manager there next to the monitor.
Will turn over, but it will not start. Okay, something's obviously broken. Not sure, but it's either an electrical problem or something, but we're not sure.
He's not going to give up without a fight. As team manager Fred Gibson, Alan Heafy, all the boys watching on with enormous disappointment in their faces.
This where he gets...
Both sides of these pit garages, both Gibson Motorsport and, of course, the Pertec Racing team, and they're only split by a couple of spaces. Marcus's car, they're not sure what went wrong. They took the tyres off. There is a chunk taken out of one of the tyres, but it wasn't deep enough to deflate it. So the Stone brothers are sort of in a bit of shock there, what was possibly going wrong with that car. And now we've got Craig Lowndes in, and as you saw, Alan Heafy and the boys unsure what has broken.
Could be a tiny little thing like a little wire somewhere, and that's the end of the day, isn't it? It's not obviously not fuel.
No fuel pressure. Absolutely.
No fuel pressure.
Okay, thank you.
What they've done is they've got him to cycle the pages on the
Yeah.
Motec dashboard, and there's a fuel pressure reading. And when it's cranking over, it mustn't be showing any pressure.
So that could be the feed to the pump or something.
So the car is kaput. And what a rotten end to a fantastic start to the weekend. We've seen it
I don't
before.
understand that, the thing with Ambrose. So did Marcus decide to come in
Right, so
and
it
they didn't
seems,
know, or did they bring him in because he was complaining of something? That's a mystery to me. I don't understand that one.
He may well take the overall prize. A lot of possibilities yet with about 13 laps to go. And the three guys who are in contention for the overall win are up the front of this field. And there is a sorry sight indeed. Craig Lowndes being towed back. A problem they are yet to resolve.
The suspect is fuel pressure for that car. And the get out of jail card again has been played by Jason Bright, who is fourth and still scoring valuable points this weekend.
When Marcus Ambrose came in for that pit stop before, it was an unscheduled stop. We know that.
Oh,
Morris and Jones.
Kelly. Kelly.
Well, those Kmart cars have been in the wars this weekend, haven't they?
They sure have.
Sorts of dramas. TWR Australia cars. But looks like Todd Kelly managing to get back into the action. Here's the battle for second. It's a beauty. Garth Tander, Stephen Johnson, Jason Bright. Amazing the way that guy continues to claw his way through from adversity earlier in the weekend to get a strong result.
He's struggled ever since he's had that new car, Jason Bright. He just doesn't seem to.
Said before, he plays the get out of jail card.
He must have a few.
Oh, it's unbelievable. He could. He's just sneaking away with this championship, totally unfussed. And earlier in the weekend, you would have reasonably said, well, this is going to be a shocker.
Exactly,
There he is. He's in fourth. A big bundle of points comes with it.
I think he said that after Hidden Valley in an interview after the race. He said, yeah, mate, I know how to win these things. I've seen it done before. Just keep it consistent. Just keep dragging in those points. Doesn't matter where you finish, just keep getting points.
3.8 seconds now. Mark Scofield in the lead.
Well, the huge number of races make up the 13 rounds. So very obviously, you've got to be in amongst it all the time in order to score valuable points. And
big difference in race speed here. Mark Scaife, a 1:45.99. Tander's done a 1:47.16. So I'm just wondering if Johnson can get past, he can go any quicker. Certainly a bit of a traffic jam.
Yeah, it would seem as though Garth is the cork in the bottle because they're all starting to bunch up pretty tight behind him now. But he's got track position. They are fighting for position. He doesn't have to yield. And really, at this point, despite Johnson looking a bit menacing, he doesn't look like he's really sort of had the speed anywhere to get the job done.
This is looking out the back of Russell Ingall's Castrol Commodore. This is the battle for ninth. Ambrose in 10th. Stephen Richards a little bit further behind in 11th. So Ambrose had all sorts of troubles today. Shown enormous speed throughout the weekend. Boy, great potential for things to come for this man and Stone Brothers Racing.
Oh, look at this.
Trying to find a way past Ingall. The enforcer, pretty wily character. He's been around a fair bit. It's not going to make it easy for Ambrose. Now the order at the moment: Scaife, Tander, Stephen Johnson, Jason Bright, John Bowen 5th. Ellery's done well, 26th. Paul Radicic in 7th. Larkham in 8th. Ingall in 9th. Oh, just squeezing through there. Stephen Richards around Tyler Mecklum's car.
One guy in pit lane who's got his fingers crossed at the moment is Gary Rogers. A bit of a better weekend for you as far as Garth's concerned.
Greg, it's been good so far. I mean, unfortunate for Jason's performance, but that's the way it goes. The car speed this weekend has been good, and the boys really have worked hard to get us to this stage. There's, I think, 4 laps to go, so we've just got to keep at it.
What approach are you telling him to take?
Oh, look, really, I don't tell them to do anything. They've got to drive the car, and, I mean, if there's an accident, you need to talk to them, but otherwise, I think if you've got to tell your driver how to drive, get another driver.
Thanks, Gary. Nice for you and the team.
It's a good way of putting it, isn't it?
Pretty accurate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they're professional drivers. They should know what they're doing by now.
If Bright could get past Steve Johnson, Tanner would win the day overall, wouldn't it?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Just said that if Garth didn't have enough on his plate, that'd be a scenario that'd be pretty good for him. Stephen Johnson's looking pretty solid there, third place.
I think they're all immovable objects at the moment. It's
like a grind to the finish, isn't it? We don't want to take any risks. We've got a lot of food on our plate here. We want to go away with it.
The gap fluctuates, but look,
it's come off again.
Huge problem for Ambrose. The wheels parted company.
Wheel forward. I'm caught off the side of the road.
3 wheels on my wagon.
It's a pretty dangerous thing. So anybody coming down the hill will be warned by the marshals that it's well behaved at the moment, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
You're warned by the marshals that there's debris on the circuit. Now you're going to have to watch this thing because it'll go straight through in this right-hander. Be careful, John Bower. Be careful, Stephen Ellery.
No, he's going to miss Ellery.
Look at that.
Look at that. How about
Beautiful timing.
Oh, that's going to go straight there. Oh, over the tyres. No. You couldn't do it if you tried, could you?
Look at that. There with its cousins.
Yeah, that's what they call a control tyre.
It's found its ancestors at last.
So, how did you end up here?
What an amazing,
that's incredible.
Amazing situation.
TV. It's a fabulous game to play. If you haven't already looked at that site, then I'd recommend you do so. And you can. And Larry has gone in a big way down in turn 1. Locked up, got it all wrong. Something weird has happened there.
That was a dramatic exit from the track, wasn't it? I wonder if something's broken on that car.
Like I don't know whether my imagination looked like the front left had already turned in when it.
I'd like to see that again in slow-mo.
Well, did someone mention before that I think he had a little bit of a rub with one of the other guys a bit earlier, so maybe something's...
It just goes up and down like a yo-yo. Let's have a look at this Larry Perkins situation.
Larry was having a look down the inside. No, I think he might just have right lock on there.
Yeah, I could have understood.
He was right under the tail of the Kmart car and maybe just missed his braking marker. And he's
a long way.
Got it very in contact the other way around. We've got a Valvoline car in.
It's Sparks. No.
Yes, it is. 35.
So he's miles off in the sand trap there. Now, if they bring a safety car out, keep in mind that under sprint race regulations, safety car lacking the top 10 by about 2 or 3 hundredths of a second.
We might see what's happened to Bargwanna here. Oh, he was actually involved with Morris. I don't quite know who did what to who, but he's a long way out there. You don't want to be... You don't want to be stranded in the beach down there that far without a towel.
Not having a good year. Bargs, he's 15th in the points. That's not going to help his title chase. Meanwhile, the battle continues between Paul Morris and Stephen Richards in the second of the FTR Fords. Optus Commodore's got a bit of battle damage on the left-hand door, and there's Bargs. What a disappointing day. So they made it much softer.
Bernard. Oh, wow.
Now, for Glenn to come in, I'd say what's happened there is he's flat spotted the front right tyre. He obviously told Grant, or the crew told Grant earlier, they didn't want to come in just because of the air dam situation, but with the downforce off the front of the car would be more prone to locking a brake and damaging the tyre. You notice they replaced it.
Bernard's having a shocker, isn't he?
Just
couldn't get any worse.
Trevor Ashby. So Paul Morris continuing to slip back through the pack.
There's Mark Larkham in the Karcher entry. Mark's actually carrying an experimental camera for the first time this weekend. Here's a replay of what happened to Bernard. Just got into the weeds, fired it around. Yeah, Larkham, Avesco, the controlling body, are experimenting with the notion of having all the cars carry cameras to try and do a better job of it.
That selection of 8 tyres, they're getting right down to what they got left.
You look at Radish's his car at the end of both races. Oh, look at this! Look! Stephen Ellery.
No.
Oh, look at that! Everyone's very lucky, Steve Ellery.
He was very lucky not to get T-boned by about half a dozen cars there. I think that was with one of the Valvoline cars. Need to see it again, but quite an extraordinary situation where they got a little bit out of shape coming off the final turn. And
Cameron McConville, let's have the Shell Helix replay of what happened with Ellery.
I see, so he's given one of the Valvoline cars a tap, and that was Tander, and then Tander comes back across to take his ground, and Ellery ends up in the weeds. Here it is again from the front angle. And so Garth just moving back to cover his ground.
Cameron McClanahan, his eyes are hanging out on springs.
I reckon Steve Ellery's would have been even further out of his head. How lucky was he?
Yeah, really incredible.
Could have had 12 cars drilling into his door if things had gone a different way. He managed to spin out of the way. Radisic has not been able to shake the whole racing team shadow. Here comes Larry Perkins, the other Castrol Commodore, in trouble. So both the Castrol cars suffering. There goes his teammate Russell Lingle right at the back of the pack.
So he's gone off at turn 4 there, so not a good day for the Castrol team. And whether Larry...
Pull down the stairs off the way out of the commentary.
Here's the replay, and it's Larry Perkins and Brad Jones. So that was the reason that Larry ended up out there in Sand Central.
So 2 Castrol cars going to the back of the pack. Another incident, Paul Romano and John Faulkner.
And John doesn't quite pull it up in time.
Whoops, Ricky Ardello in trouble.
Also, a report comes through that collisions between various people after the first few corners in the first lap. Here's where it starts with the lock-up at the rears, and then it sort of happens again where it actually looks like Junior gets a little bit crossed up. Scafie gives him another tap, he goes wide. But that's Larkham into the back of Murphy, which sends Lowndes out into the gravel. That's going to make it very difficult for him to get back on and be competitive from out there. Here's the onboard. This is Craig Lowndes. Who have we got to the right there?
That's Engel, is it?
It's Murphy up on the outside. And pretty shortly a bit of chaos unfolds here because I think Larkham touches the back. Oh, yes, he goes back. Does he give him more than a touch, actually? It's a big wallop, and that just carts Lowndes out into the grass. Maintain good pace.
Here's a replay of the start, courtesy of Shell Helix. We're on board with Greg Murphy. And watch Lowndes moving across there to try and find some tactical advantage. He gets boxed in. And look at Radicic, a brilliant start to Shell Ford, sneaking along the inside of the Kmart car. Murphy goes really deep under brakes, picks up 2 or 3, but then unfortunately he's on the receiving end of this shuffle across from Larkham. Bang!
Whoa!
And he's taken out of the picture.
Greg made enormous ground under brakes on the outside at turn 1, which is a trick you can get away with here, but it puts you in a very vulnerable spot if anything goes wrong, and it did. Now another incident here shows Kelly, I think his teammate, whoa, no, it's Merv. Big aggravation there with Romano. And that's
on the early stages of this race. Boy, this Calder Park certainly does produce some close and physical racing.
Sure does. Here's another man who's done a couple of rounds. Look at the damage here. Front left of the car leaning down.
Scafie up to 17.
Had a shocking season so far, the Aussie male team. Let's have a look on the Shell Helix replay. Well, something's already happened here.
Is that a result of some form of contact, or is it a breakage? Sending off huge smoke signals. Everybody behind, you can read that as
variation in tyre temperature. Or maybe some car isn't performing as well as the others. Oh, Larry Perkins. He's been turned around mid-pack. Jason Richards has given him a T-bone.
Brad Jones to the green stuff as well.
Larry looks like he's got a big hit in the side there. Hopefully it hasn't deranged the front suspension. Looks like
there's cars everywhere here.
Look at this lot.
Rodney Forbes, one of them. Cameron McLean. There's one of the white cars
Anthony
there.
Tratt.
Is it Tratt?
I think it's Anthony Tratt in there too.
Can't see what's happened. That's very significant damage to that white car up against the fence, which we suspect is car 75. Right rear mudguard damage on Rodney Forbes' car 7 as Paul Morris leads by 1.4 seconds on the opening lap from Radicic, who really got stuck into it off the line. Then Engel, then Radicic's teammate Stephen Johnson, Jason Bright, Ellery, then Murphy recovering from a fairly rugged weekend after what would have been a lot of promise for him, and Larry parked there between turns 6 and 7.
Yeah, you got a big hit in the side there from Jason Richards, who was an innocent victim in all of that. Let's have a look at what happened further on. Oh, Tratt.
That is Anthony Tratt, yeah.
Cameron
McLean got
involved, and Bradley Jones.
Bradley,
I think Bernard's mixed in there. We're not sure what's triggered all that. I think there's more to that entire story, and I think it's probably started at the previous corner when Larry was on. The safety car is out.
How hard was that impact with McLean and the concrete wall?
I'd like to see more of what happened at the end of the back straight with the. When Larry went around, I suspect that somebody helped him, and that'll be the trigger for all the chaos that ensued at turn 7, because the minute the pack gets split and scrambled, all sorts of weird things start happening. Yeah, people can't see it.
What's out on the floor there?
Paul Morris had some tremendous speed in that opening lap. Cold tyres sort of reminded you of Lowndes when he was at HRT. 1.4 seconds over one lap.
Larry's not vacating the seat.
Yeah, he's had a big stove in. You can see the damage there on the left-hand side of the car. And there's Dean Canto. He got caught up in that first lap drama. So plenty of carnage up and down the pack there. What's going on here?
This will be on the opening lap. Look at the top of the shot and you'll start to see what's happened here. Larry Perkins is the one that got turned around, but who's into who? I think Larkham was being slowed. Somebody got into the back of Larry Perkins, and then Jason Richards makes contact, doing everything they can to stop.
Trying to run up the inside. Bernard was the one who paid the penalty in that exercise. The top 10 cars now are in a bumper-to-bumper queue. Helix replay of Rodney Forbes. Waltzes across the grass there. He was involved in that first lap incident. He managed to recover, but hasn't done him much good. He's back in the sand.
Your Battler Britain tactic, eh? Your spits.
Look out, Escape's gone round. Now somebody else will have been involved in that, I suspect.
That's what happens though when you get caught back in the pack, isn't it? You've got elbow to elbow, you're fighting for track position. It's always a risk of that happening. So Scaife, all that work, good work has come undone. Oh, how close is it? Look at Radicic under brakes now. In those times running out, Strathfield in-car Canberra riding with Ingle. You're right in the heart of this battle.
Very difficult to pass going into the last corner there. Here's a replay. What happened? Do we know more? Oh, Scaife gets into the back of Tander, and I don't think anybody was in the back of Mark. Oh, he was lucky not to get T-boned down here.
Let's have a look at this again.
Is anybody in the back of the HRT car? No, they're not. He's just there on his own. So he made contact with Tander and then just couldn't maintain control and went around. One wide at turn 2 here. It's a very dirty race line, and they tend to all nose to tail when they go down to turn 3. Have we got a clean start? No, we haven't.
Greg Murphy in trouble. He's been hit in the rear by Mick Donoghue in the Ultratune car. So Murphy's had a disastrous opening stint of this lap. He's stranded there at turn 2. Wonder if he can get that car going before the field comes around the next time. Brilliant start from David Bernard. He really jumped off the line, swamped Lowndes as he made his charge up the inside. He's up to second.
Yeah, he could. It's amazing, isn't it, to get a good result in practice, and he's really on the crest of a wave.
Well, Todd Kelly actually squeezed through after that great start. So Kelly now is up to second. Bernard drops back to third. And Murphy's still in trouble at turn 2. Safety car, we believe, is being called out. Murphy is stranded. He cannot move that car.
Well, that's very unusual. Very rarely do the cars end up damaged to such an extent that you can't actually drive them off the edge of the road. I'd like to see what the damage is to that car, and obviously there's a bit of damage around the back there, but why can't it be moved?
See cars heading left, right and centre. Mick Donoghue followed Murphy across the grass. He had everything locked up, drilled the back of the Kmart car. And Murphy went only a few metres beyond that. There's the safety car signs, waving yellow flags, so not even one lap in anger. And there is Greg Murphy. Probably can't understand himself why he can't move the car.
Did you actually? I didn't actually see the beginning of that.
No, we might try and catch that on one of our Shell Helix replays, but there is often drama when you get to the first corner here. They've got quite a wide main straight at Oran Park and a very narrow race line. When you go through that kink down there at turn 1, there's a little short straight section then to this second turn. You can see how dirty it is around the edge of the road there. Replay of the start. We'll see if we can find some answers for you.
Lowndes gets swamped by Scaife, but look at Bernard up the inside. He really got good traction in the Haviland Ford. Kelly came around the other side, so they boxed Lowndes' ears. Johnson went up as well. So there was a real push and shove through that first turn.
Who's that, Steve?
Ambrose.
Ambrose. Oh, yeah, boy, Ambrose.
Now you could see the avoiding action that Mick Donoghue took. He was out on the grass.
And the glimpse that I saw of Murphy's car looked like the left front wheel was all skewed, like he'd broken a steering arm or something. And there's Greg Murphy out of the car.
Big disappointment for Greg. He's currently 6th in the Shell Championship Series points. There's the Kmart Racing team.
It's like human years and dog years, isn't it?
Let's have a look at the Shell Helix replay. An incident with John Bowe and Paul Morris.
Oh, dear.
Morris goes rally crossing. Still manages to hang on to it. He's still well into the side of the Caterpillar Ford as they head up over the bridge. And he actually manages to...
Yeah, so the next quickest one, as you were saying, is Jason Bright.
This is going into turn 3, and Marcus up the inside.
Oh, dear.
Well and truly alongside him, and I don't think Stephen realised that Marcus was that far up, and it just shoved him wide. he left room for him and then bang. Actually, they sort of interlocked front wheels, which was the reason for that little awkward moment. And Stephen heading off to the kart track there for a moment. But oh, have a look at this. We've got a bit of a battle going on here with Longhurst up the inside of Ambrose and Wallop.
Ouch. Marcus Ambrose.
Where did he get out of that?
Running in 14th. Isn't it amazing how the fortunes of these two Stone Brothers Fords change around? David Bernard's been on the absolute receiving end for the first half of the season, and now things are going bad for Marcus, and David's form's picking up.
I was going to make the comment, and here's another replay of that situation with Longhurst up the inside. Ambrose turns in, they make contact.
See the big dent in the back of Tony's car there.
Off he goes. The point that I was going to make was that Cameron McLean, when we went away in the...
Dus is 150. 150, jobb 2 tempó, 20-ra bal 2 tempó, 20-ra bal 2 tempó, 25-ra bal 2 szűk, bal 2 szűk, és bal 2, majd 50-re jobb 2, itt a bal 2, és 50